on a Thursday, and the Warriors beat the Memphis Grizzlies last night, and Jonathan Kuminga was terrific. Both ends of the floor for a stretch late in the first half that got the Warriors going. And it was funny because talking to the boss beforehand, and he's talking about Kuminga, and he's like, what stuck out to you about last night's game? Anything stick out to you? I said, well, let me think. I said, yeah, Draymond got away with something again.
Oh,
that's fine.
Boy.
No, I said, not really. I mean, it's Memphis, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. And he said, to me, it was Kuminga. And then I said, well, you know what? You're right. I wasn't thinking about that stretch late in the second quarter. But yeah, now that you said that, yeah, Kuminga was terrific last night. And he said, I just think that this guy is he's the guy. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody will ever be Steph again. Nobody is coming down the road who's going to be Steph Curry after Steph leaves. But what he was saying was, but Kuminga is going to be the guy that we root for and is our best player probably maybe sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
The next 2 or 3 years.
Man, if it's not happening, like he's the most athletic right now, right, Steiny?
Obviously.
Steph, I'm just saying, because Steph's incredible and we know what he is, but Steiny, if you get in that car to come to a Warrior game, again, I can't believe there's only 14 left, 5 home games, but you could get in that car and say, we're going to see Kuminga. I mean, that's how much of a show he is right now.
What really surprised me with the conversation with him was when I said something like, well, now how do you think, because we've talked about Kuminga's development.
Oh my gosh.
For the last 2 or 3 years. And I feel like I've sensed more frustration from Warrior fans about the way the team has handled Kuminga rather than Kuminga. And I just said to him kind of flippantly, well, how do you think the Warriors have handled Kuminga now? And he said, well, I still don't think great. And that's what made me say, really? I think
I'm with you.
But
what else, man?
Well, what else could have been done was he could have played 35 minutes a game last year.
Oh, we're going that far back. Yeah.
Well, no, we're going his whole career with the Warriors. How do you think the Warriors have handled Kuminga?
Well, you know me, I've went on some rants. Like maybe we could have saw this a lot sooner. Maybe he wouldn't have been a zero in LA against the Lakers last year had he been getting Lamb and Jerome's minutes. So I totally get that. But the now is the now, right? And right now, he's arguably, if not, your second best player. So we'll see moving forward. This will be important. That's why I want the series for him, TJD, Pods. God, Stein, I want them to get, and again, that series could go only 4, but you want them to get more than just a play-in experience.
So,
but I feel that about this could have been, that we could have arrived at Jonathan Kuminga breakout earlier.
What I've been thinking about Kuminga all along is, like, I think, like my mom always says, you're right where you need to be.
Mary.
And to me, like Jonathan Kuminga, where he's at right now is under the circumstance of the Golden State Warriors, I don't think you could ask for any more. I don't. And when I say circumstances, you when you're talking about Jonathan Kuminga, we must include the fact and the context that he was drafted to a team that considers itself championship caliber. Mm. So the minute he comes onto a team that is he didn't go to the Pistons. He went to the Golden State Warriors, who have championship aspirations and have had championship aspirations. They still do. We're finding out they still have championship aspirations. Well, to me, if you have championship aspirations, that circumstance in and of itself was going to be a detriment to his individual progress. It had to be, because you could not incorporate Kuminga in a significant way and really think you were a championship team in the last year or two. So when I look at Kuminga, and I also look at Kuminga as, I do think there's a lot of players that come into the league on bad teams. They get playing time. They put up 22 a game, but it doesn't mean anything because they're not scoring in the context of winning. They're not scoring in the context of games that are important. And to me, I'm not saying it means nothing, but a guy who averages 20 on a bad team doesn't really do it for me. It's like I'm with Barkley. Somebody's got to score on a bad team. And Kuminga would have scored on a bad team. But I'm not convinced if Kuminga would have gone to a bad team and been given 32 to 35 minutes a game, that he would be a better player right now. I look at it the opposite way. I see a kid who came onto a team that the reason he couldn't play for the Warriors more was because he was young, he was inexperienced, he's raw. He came into the league with a lot of flaws in his game, and you can't afford to play a guy like that 25 minutes a game if you want to win a title. So Steve Kerr had to keep him on a short leash in the first year. He did. Then last year he got more playing time, probably averaged 25 minutes a game last year. And this year he's doing what he's doing. Like I almost feel like, well, what Kuminga is doing now is proof that the Warriors have done a real nice job with him. However, I think there's people out there that say if they would have done things differently, he would be further along now, and he would have been this guy back, a year ago.
Well, that's where I come out.
Yeah,
but it's
so
fair.
You don't think they handled him great?
I almost want to say it doesn't matter because now he took the bull by the horns. I remember I told you.
Is there any way he could be further advanced?
No doubt, Steiny.
Yeah,
I believe so. And I think he believes so, and that's where the frustration
in
lies.
Golden State
This year. Yeah, that's why this year twice he went to the, however he did it, he got out that he wanted more playing time. So I do believe that, and I do wonder, Steiny, damn, would he have been a zero against the Lakers?
Well,
maybe you say, and maybe he would have been, but I would have liked for him to get that opportunity, and maybe that's where the frustration lied. But at the end of the day, you just think about how it was handled, and to Steve Kerr's credit, and you didn't let me forget this, when he took the bullet, if I could call it that, by saying, I went with the portfolio of Loon Dog, what we did when we won. I was married to that. Maybe Kuminga obviously wasn't a part of the rotation last year at the most important time against the Lakers. That's what he chose to do, and maybe that was wrong. But as far as could he be along further, I do believe that. But Steiny, I guess what I'm saying to you is, that was then. It's still part of his evolution, but right now it's popping.
Let's go take some calls. Let's go to Doug. Doug's in Berkeley. Hey, Doug, how you doing, man?
Good morning. Good morning, guys. I'm doing well. I'm interested in all the comments. I think that both you guys are spot on. I think obviously he would be further along had Kerr given him a longer leash, but also I agree with Steiny. He is where he should be.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm going to say is that, or my point is that. I think that we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. I agree 100%. I think you'd be crazy not to, that this kid is going to be great. He's going to be great. He's going to be a star. Maybe he's going to be a superstar. But right now, we're looking at his progress from, early in the season to that conversation with Kurt, and after that. We're looking at his progress, and I think we're confusing it a little bit with where he actually is. He still goes in the middle sometimes and loses a ball. He still, takes ill-advised shots. He's very athletic, and when he looks great. And obviously, everybody looked great last night against a depleted Grizzlies team. But if I compare him to role players on the other contending teams,
okay,
Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Caldwell Pope, and how they know their roles and what they do, he's still not there. So we're confusing the rate of his ascent with where he actually is now, and he's going to get there, and he's close, and he's going to be there next year. But let's just pump the brakes a little bit so we don't put too much on the kid. I would rather have any one of the three guys that I just mentioned right now, at this point. I'm not talking about a year from now. I'm not talking about even the beginning of next season. because they know their roles and they deliver on a more consistent basis. You say the role players on Boston, any of the contending teams. And the fact that our team, has been so inconsistent, I think also holds them back. But having said all that, and thanks for letting me talk, I agree with what you guys are saying, and I think we all agree Kuminga is going to be great. Thanks.
Appreciate the call.
Yeah, Steiny, I'll just say this to that call. I hope I'm not, like we talked about his ball handling, and he can use some polish. This is just about excitement. And to the caller's point about the guys he mentioned, they've had more cracks at it. And you're right. Aaron Gordon has went to the lab and reinvented himself. Porter Jr. is polished and mastered his role. So I hope I'm not coming across saying Kuminga's a finished product. It's just he's doing this early. And it's exciting.
And that's what I'm going to push back on, because it's funny how the narrative changes. Now we're talking about how he's doing things so early in his third year. But for the last 2 years, there's been a lot of grumbling about Kuminga's getting hosed. Like Kuminga should play more. And what I'm saying is, to me, this is the ultimate. Like Kuminga's right now where he is fine.
Yeah.
There is nothing to see here as far as I'm concerned with how the Warriors have handled Kuminga for the first 2 3/4 of a year. Not one thing. And here's why. Jonathan Kuminga's first year in the league, he comes in, he's 19 or whatever, 18 or 19. He's never played organized basketball but for this short stint with the G League Ignite, and he's drafted by a team that wins a title. They won a title 2 years ago. Even still, like I look at it and I look at the big picture and say, he was so raw. He didn't know how to play. He didn't really know the pro game. He still he played 70 games his rookie year and played 17 minutes a game as a guy who never went to college. Like, that's impressive now that if you look back on that. The fact that he even played 70 games and played 17 minutes a game and they won a title. Mm. All right. So now we go to next year or last year, his second year. Well, the Warriors now, what's their goal? To repeat. Well, he's gotten better, but he's still only 20 years old. So you're still trying to win a title. You're trying to go back to back. So he can't play 30 minutes a night on that team, can he? If the goal was to win a title last year, which it was to repeat, like, how was he going to get 33 minutes a game last year? What did he do? He played 21 minutes a game last year. All right, maybe some people wanted 25. I'll give you 25, but I ain't giving
him Lamb's minutes.
But I ain't giving. Well, he wasn't ready to take Lamb's minutes last year. He could have taken Lamb's minutes, but maybe you lose in the first round. Maybe you don't win as many games.
And you ended up doing that anyway, and maybe that's where the problem. Like, Steiny, I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, but what we do know is Jonathan Kuminga felt he could play, and that's why he was kicking up dust saying he should have been in there even last year, and he was upset at how he was handled.
Does anybody allow for the fact that maybe last year was a wake-up call for Jonathan Kuminga because he did see Anthony Lamb playing ahead of him, and he maybe figured out why? Because Anthony Lamb was, and by the way, if you don't just blame Steve Kerr, blame Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and blame Klay Thompson, because they were every bit as responsible for him not playing as much as a lot of people wanted as Steve Kerr. Because you think Steve Kerr would have been able to play Anthony Lamb without the veteran saying, Lamb's better right now, Steve? Like, I don't think that, like, Kuminga didn't play last year because Kerr and the veterans didn't think he was ready to be a 25-minute a night player on a championship team. And that's the other thing. When the gentleman who last called said pump the brakes, I know exactly what he's saying. Like, one of the reasons Kuminga's playing more this year and scoring more and emerging is because he finally has an opportunity, A, because he's gotten better, and B, because the team's not quite as good. this year as they have been in the past. So that's allowed him to now play 26 minutes a game. And look, he's not playing 26 right now. He's playing 30. So he's up to 30 the last two months of the season. So like I think he's been handled perfectly by the Warriors if you consider what their goals were when he got here. That's just me. And I don't believe, I don't, like, for some reason he didn't play him 25, 30 minutes a game. Why? Like, let me ask you, why didn't Kuminga play more last year, do you think?
I don't know. And that's why I said he should have been playing.
Well,
why would Kerr think that a guy that's not two guys, and I shouldn't include
because it's not
Jerome.
just about how high you can jump; it's about how smart you are and how you rebound.
Well, you're asking me, but then you're answering.
Right.
I'm just telling you, I think Kerr missed an opportunity, and Jonathan Kuminga and his camp felt the same way. But now I feel like you're not caping. Now you're saying the veterans didn't think he could be a part, so it's not on Kerr.
Well, no, it's all of them. They're all together. Like Kerr and the veterans are together, and. No, what I'm saying is, like,
because he's here now,
right?
know?
But the reason Kuminga didn't play more last year was because Steve Kerr believed Anthony Lamb was more developed, and because the goal was a championship, Kerr went with Lamb more than Kuminga, and you can't tell me that if Curry and Draymond and Klay Thompson weren't saying, hey, Steve, we got to get Kuminga in there for Anthony Lamb, Kerr wouldn't have done it. I think it was probably the opposite. I think it was probably, we're trying to win back-to-back titles here, and Jonathan is a hell of a talent, but he's not quite ready. And you know what? Anthony Lamb plays better with us anyway. Like, he knows he's more mature. He's been around longer. So you could have played Kuminga more last year, but I'm not sure that aligned with what the veterans wanted, what Steve Kerr wanted, and what Joe Lacob's goal for the season was, which was to go back to back. That's why I just now look at it all back, and I think it's all kind of logical. And I'm ready to say the Warriors have handled this kid really, really well, given the circumstances. Now, the other thing is, if you want to say, well, they weren't a championship team last year, that's fair. I kind of didn't think they were either. But you owe the veterans something when they won a title the year before. And then if you're trying to win a title again, he might not have been the first option to help the Warriors win as many. Like, he's more capable of helping them in a winning environment now than I think he was last year. But
it's almost by default now, because like you said, the team is not as good, or they know they're not as good, and they needed them to play.
All right, let's jump into some calls. I've been filibustering. Shane's in San Francisco. Start us off, Shane. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey.
To answer your question, Steiny, about Kuminga this year, next year, and then beyond. Sure. This year, I agree with Guru. I have no championship aspirations, but let's get to the playoffs. Let's win a couple playing games, and let's let Kuminga sort of solidify this season or this half season of being the number 2 on this team. For next year, it's he's undoubtedly the number 2 option, with the chance to show that how he can be the number 1 option, like on a night by night basis. For me, after that, you kind of have to build the team around him, and I don't know how you do that. But for next year, I think he shows to me when I watch him that in a game, like a game by game basis, even in game, he shows development and the ability to adapt and learn, like, in the moment. Like, even some of his passing, like his pump fakes, he's getting mature, like, every possession. He's just, I think he's there. He's right where he should be, to agree with Steiny.
Appreciate it, Shane. No, he's...
Like, you can't argue that. What you've been... Like, if you want to go there, and I appreciate you saying, hey, do you think he was handled right, even posing the question, but at the end of the day, the cake is tasting pretty damn good, and when you double back, it's like, okay, we handled him right. Now, if you want to ask me again, what you had, Snotty, could he have popped off sooner? Would that have changed the Lakers series? I don't know, but I sure as hell would have liked to see it, and I know who else felt that way, him.
Well, but you have to put into the equation that you might not have been where you were in the standings at that point. Like you might not have gotten Sacramento if you weren't a 6 seed. You might if I'm just saying maybe last year you play Kuminga more, you're an 8 seed and you're in a play-in, and then you got to play a different team and Denver sweeps you and you look different.